This video is sponsored by Brilliant. In the past 10 years, Apple has had some pretty serious flops. Turns out not many people wanted to buy a $10,000 gold Apple Watch edition. And despite a lot of begging, no one wanted a mini iPhone either. That was a pretty quick flop. And there is now another new Apple product falling from its pretty mediocre rise, and I was stupid enough to get one. The Apple Card is so bad that the bank that worked with Apple to bring this card to life wants to back out of their deal years early. Which means the Apple Card might go the way of iPod socks or the OG Apple Watch. Just a relic of the past and a reminder that Apple doesn't always get it right. The truth is that Apple was banking on the Apple Card to save the company, because if this fails, the iPhone is going to fail next. But before I explain why that is, I should probably answer the obvious question, which is why did Apple even make their own credit card in the first place? The answer to that question involves Big Bird. No, I'm not kidding. Back in 2019, Apple held an event that on the surface kind of seemed like any other Apple event, but behind the scenes, the company was banking on this being their saving grace. This was a Hail Mary attempt to try to save Apple from potentially a pretty nasty downward spiral. See, every time I talk about Apple potentially canceling the iPhone or there being the end to the iPhone, everyone loves to laugh and roast me in the comments saying that's never going to happen. And laugh all you want, but I'm not the only one that believes this could be happening. Apple believes it too, so much so that Tim Cook had to put a plan in place to make sure that if the iPhone was to fall, something else could rise up and take its place and make that money. That's because Tim is a smart man and he sees the writing on the wall. iPhone sales are slumping, Mac sales are down. Not only are people not super excited to spend thousands of dollars and buy new Apple stuff, but also the stuff they've got, like their 2 or 3 year old iPhone or Mac, is still pretty good, and there's not this increasing demand to buy new stuff all the time. Which means Apple needed a new way to capitalize on making some money, which caught them sort of chasing the buzzword of the 2010s, which was some sort of subscription service. So it was at this special event, with special guest stars including Big Bird, that Apple introduced this next generation of offerings that would be the answer to potentially the iPhone's downfall. This was things like Apple Arcade, which would be the streaming service and would make your Mac or iPhone or Apple TV your next gaming companion. There was Apple News Plus, which was going to be sort of this mix of news and magazines as a subscription service. There was Apple TV Plus, which had a very star-studded debut. And then there was the odd announcement of the Apple Card. Yes, Apple was getting into the financial sector by making their own credit card. And the way Apple tried to sell this was to take their approach to software and technologies and bring that to the financial sector. It was a simple, secure card. You'd have all your info seamlessly synced to the iPhone, and Apple brought their minimal design and security to the physical hardware. What's interesting about this card is not only is it titanium, kind of premium and nice, but there's like very little branding and no numbers anywhere on this card. There's your name, there's the Apple logo, on the back is Goldman Sachs and MasterCard, sort of the financial backers to this project, and that is it. So even if someone was to steal this card, I guess they could still swipe it and use it, but there are no card numbers anywhere to be found. All that is gonna live on your iPhone. Okay, well that's interesting, but still doesn't answer the question as to why they did this. Why would they make their own branded credit card? Why would they get into the financial services industry? It just sort of all seems weird, but the answer, as you could probably imagine, is all about that sweet, sweet money. And there was a position here, an opportunity for Apple to make some serious cash if they could do things right. In fact, let me throw out a crazy little stat here that might just blow your mind. You know, Apple has Apple Pay. You can use any credit card with your Apple device and just sort of tap and pay. It's sort of the Apple Pay system that's been around for a while. Apple makes some money off of each of those transactions. You don't have to have an Apple Card just by using Apple Pay with your Apple device. They make a little chunk of change when you make your purchase. And there were so many purchases made that Apple made their cut, their fee from all of those, of over $780 million last year in 2022. $780 million just as their cut for the small fee for everyone using Apple Pay. If they could make nearly $1 billion just off of Apple Pay transaction fees, they could make way more with their own credit card and other financial offerings. Now, speaking of making money, am I the only one who watched that movie, The Social Network? I think I was like in middle school or high school at the time and saw all these programmers and coding, and I thought computer science was amazing and I was gonna have this really exciting and lucrative career in that space, only to then go and take a computer science class and then have it go completely over my head. Hopefully I'm not alone in this, right? Honestly, it wasn't until I discovered Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video, that I realized that I could actually learn this stuff. It could actually click in my head and it could make sense. I just needed a different and honestly a better way to learn it. And if you have not heard of Brilliant before, it's the best way to learn math, data science, and computer science in a way that is fun, interactive, and totally on your own pace and at your own time. No rushed classroom sort of atmosphere here. You take as much time as you need. They've got thousands of lessons from basics to advanced topics, and new lessons added every single month. And I personally love that Brilliant customizes this content to fit your needs. These lessons are bite-sized, they're interactive, and for me, I feel like I'm solving problems in a real-world way, if that makes sense. If you have wanted to dive into a topic like engineering or science and learn some new things, but it just wasn't clicking, you may just need a better way to learn this stuff, and in my opinion, Brilliant is the perfect way to go. If you want to learn more, check it out for yourself today, and also start totally for free for 30 days. Hit that link down below to learn more, or head to brilliant.org/theAppleCircle, and the first 200 subscribers who go to that link down below and sign up are going to get a special 20% off discount on the annual plan. Again, learn more, check it out for yourself today, and start totally for free by hitting that link down below or by going to brilliant.org/theAppleCircle. In fact, it was estimated that Apple is charging their Apple Card partner, Goldman Sachs, the bank behind this, a 2% fee of all the purchases made with this card, Apple or not. And yeah, Apple had some other incentives. There was daily cash back, and there was 3% back for Apple products and stuff like that. There were some incentives there, and there was no fee to Apple's credit. It wasn't like it cost you anything besides a hit to your credit to actually apply and get this card. But there were some serious money-making opportunities for Apple here to be had. 2% of, millions, hundreds of millions, potentially billions of dollars spent on these cards could be a really good deal for Apple. But to make a long story short, things just didn't work out. After months of rumors and speculation, Goldman Sachs has announced that they want to back out of their deal with Apple years early because, simply put, it's costing them way too much money. In addition to the investments they paid for Apple to engineer all this stuff and to get things up and running, they're just taking too much of a loss on the loans associated with this card. And because they're losing billions of dollars a year, they want to exit while they can and sort of get out of the Apple Card industry because it's not been a benefit for them. Now, this doesn't immediately spell the end of the Apple Card because there are rumors that Chase may swoop in and replace Goldman Sachs as the bank behind the Apple Card. But I do think that this sort of shows us a larger picture of where Apple is going, and also just goes to show that sometimes Apple tries to aggressively enter a market where things just don't work out. They don't get it right, and maybe the Apple Card really wasn't all that enticing or really that much of a good idea. And while we don't have public numbers, I can tell you from reading your comments down below and talking with friends and family members and just other people in this industry that Apple's subscription services is a growing part of their bottom line. They're trying to bolster that as much as they can, but their individual offerings aren't completely extremely compelling, for lack of a better couple of words there. Apple Arcade is kind of cool, but I don't know anyone who really loves or plays a lot of games on their iPhone, at least at the way that Apple's marketing it. Same for Apple News Plus. It's nice, and it's a nice add-on if you've got an Apple One subscription or one of the other plans, but it's not entirely compelling on its own. Apple TV Plus, to Apple's credit, has gotten a lot better over time, and for a while there you could basically get it on an endless cycle of free trials and you never had to pay, and even for its starting price tag of $5 a month, it wasn't too bad. But now it's gotten more expensive, and despite its pretty good catalog of content, it still doesn't have nearly the amount of stuff you could watch on there as opposed to its competitors like Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Max, and all the rest. But while that is not super good news, there is some stuff that Apple is currently doing that is working, and more that could be coming that could be very compelling for consumers. I actually think that Apple Music is one of their best subscription subscription offerings right now. Not only is this actually like a dominant force in the music streaming services war, but it's a real big competitor to Spotify. Apple has really proven that they can take on music streaming, and Apple Music is really good. It's available on Android and other platforms and is doing quite well and is a good offering on its own. There's also the Apple bundles with Apple One and the different tiers that is kind of nice, even though the price increase on that recently is making it very expensive. It is nice if you want to sort of have more iCloud space and sort of have those bundles with Fitness Plus and other things as well. And then there's two more things slated for 2024 that could be some game changers. One is some new hardware. We know that Apple is working to give us a bit more of an exciting year with hardware, including the launch of Vision Pro, which is going to be more expensive, but I think a sort of proof of concept that if Apple can get it right with this new platform and this mixed reality AR, VR experience, this could be a great way for them to make some money. And also, there has been a rumor floating around for a while that Apple is experimenting, or set to experiment, with their own hardware subscription offering, where instead of just being able to subscribe to the iPhone upgrade program and pay a fixed amount of money to get an iPhone every month, that you could pay 20, 40, 50 bucks a month and get an iPhone or AirPods or an iPad or a Mac, and basically pay to use them as a subscription offering and not have to pay thousands of dollars to buy them. I think this is a very interesting proposition and is very appealing for a lot of people out there who don't want to spend thousands of dollars to buy a new Mac, who want to jump between different devices. A hardware subscription offering is a bit of a gamble, but I do think could pay off big for Apple. It could be super appealing. And as Apple is looking to sort of build up their subscription and services offering, to build up some juicy reoccurring revenue, a hardware subscription offering might not be all that crazy, something Apple could afford to do and could, if done right, make them a lot of money. All right, so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about the Apple Card? Was this a good move for Apple? Was it a bad move? Did it show that Apple just doesn't always get it right? And what are your general thoughts on Apple trying to save themselves from what could be a nasty iPhone downfall? As I've discussed before, the iPhone is not going to be Apple's cash cow forever. They're going to need something to replace this. What is that going to be? Is it going to be Vision Pro? Is it going to be subscription offerings, new iPads, new Macs, new iPhones, a mixture of all those? Let me know your thoughts down below on what Apple could do to bring in some money and something you'd actually want to pay for. Let me know down below your thoughts. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I'll see you all in the next one.